I think that this Tampa taping series was pretty damn good. I really liked what they did. Um, and last night's episode, I thought, as far as wrestling wise, was one of their better wrestling shows in a while. I thought it was pretty good, with an obvious exception, and we'll get to that. But it was pretty good. So let's shift our focus to this week's Impact Wrestling, or TNA Impact show, the Impact reaction. So let's get to it. First up, we had a big triple threat match where Hammerstone took on Frankie the Future Kazarian and Kushida to qualify for the Ultimate X match at TNA Emergence. I thought this match was very good. I thought it was a hell of a way to start the show. And you had three like kind of decent sized stars in the match, which was a contrast from the other Ultimate X qualifying match that we see later in the episode. But we'll get to that. I thought this match ruled, honestly. There was a point where Hammerstone was throwing forearms outside, and his arms were moving so slow because of the trajectory where he's coming down, and it just looks so bad because he's so fucking big at this point. He can't really extend his chest out because he's got too much muscle. I was like, dude, stop throwing those forearms. You look terrible. But other than that, I thought the match ruled though. Like it was a great show. It was a great match to open up the show. Kazarian and Kushida both had their moments, but in the end, it was Hammerstone who stood tall. Brother is a beast, and he qualified for the Ultimate X. I don't think I like him in the X division, to be honest with you. I really do think they need a secondary heavyweight championship, and that's where I was like getting excited about the international heavyweight title, but I don't think they're actually going to acknowledge that belt. I don't think that's ever going to happen. After the match, Kazarian decided to take his frustrations out on Kushida, hitting him with a fade to black and finisher imposing over him as the crowd rained down the boos. Crowd was hot. Crowd was hot for this whole match. They're actually hot for this episode. I thought the crowd was great here. So it looks like we'll probably see Kazarian and Kushida wrestle, probably at Emergence, coming up here soon. Next, we go to a backstage segment where Gia Miller interviewed Eric Young. Steve Macklin interrupted the interview, hinting at a match between the two down the line, and sure enough, that has been made official. We'll get Steve Macklin versus Eric Young. I don't know why we're doing it. I think Macklin, like there isn't really any heat there. Like nothing really happened, but Macklin's just been calling him out. Macklin just wants to wrestle him, I guess. It's like, hey, look, Young's not doing anything. Macklin's not doing anything. Let's just put them together and have them wrestle. You know what? But the match is going to be awesome. Like they're two really good wrestlers if they let them go. It's just weird because I just don't know where the heat's at. I just don't understand it. But it's very clearly they're just throwing these two guys together. And then we had an awesome promo vignette featuring Mike Santana, who had some strong words from the system. Santana's on a mission to take the system out one by one. And then of course he's going to start that process in the main event. And so good stuff. I really do think that Mike Santana is a top guy. And he's very much over. He is very much over. And if you saw this show, like he's right behind Joe Hendry and the Hardys as far as being over. He's a really good babyface. And I think eventually he could be a good heel too. Just because he's such a good promo, I think he can do it. And he's a lot bigger than he was before. And then a knockouts action. Rosemary took on Alicia Edwards in a singles match. Rosemary came out on top there, and then she sent a message after the match, by placing a black rose on Alicia's chest. So, and then of course, I think, at some point during the match, I think I remember that this was the match. I don't have the play-by-play in front of me. I just have some notes, but I think this was the match where they had some chicanery on the outside featuring, Ash by Elegance and, Militia. No, it was Militia, right? Yeah. So it was Masha Slamovich was on the outside trying to get involved, and Spitfire, because that feud will never end, helped out Rosemary in this match. So it looks like we're definitely going to get a triple threat between Jordan, Rosemary, and Ash by Elegance coming up at Emergence is what it's looking like. If it's not already been made official, I think it might have been. And the next we go. So here's where the show kind of falls off a cliff. If you liked it, more power to you. But it was a 6-person tag match. You had Zaya Brookside, Rhino, and PCO taking on Steph DeLander, and her partner. She was going to have 2 mystery partners, one of which was supposed to be Mid Cardona, but he came out and said he's not medically cleared yet. So he announced he announced that Steph DeLander's partners are going to be the returning Big Con, and also we haven't seen Big Con in a while, which I was disappointed. I wore his T-shirt that I made for him. I wore it on my Slammiversary post show, and he wasn't even at Slammiversary. He has not been around in a couple months. I don't know if he was injured or what, but he made his return to the Tampa tapings. And I'll be honest, I kind of let out a sigh of relief because I thought the guy got fired. I was like, shit, I hope he didn't get fired. I've been burying the guy every week. The last thing he needs is to get fired. I don't think that he's a bad person or anything like that. I just didn't find him interesting on television. And then of course the returning Madman Fulton. I wonder if this is going to be a one-off with Fulton, because they brought him back a couple of times before and he never really sticks around. So I'm like, what's the point? Like, why just bring him around a couple times a year? He's not a special attraction. You just bring him in and just beat the guy. The guy's a fucking monster. He's shredded. He looks great. Why do that? Like, I know he's not, as far as in the ring goes, I know he's not top tier talent. I get that. But you bring him back so often, it's like, why not just keep him around and do something with them? And they could make Khan and Fulton kind of a mid-level tag team that kind of jobs to the stars and beats up on local job talent, you know. I think they could do something with them. I'm not saying they could be like a push to act or anything like that, but you know, they're both big dudes. Maybe throw a manager with them and maybe you got something there. I'm not saying they're ever going to be tag champions, but you know, they could do something on, you know, on the undercard and then, you know, and beat up some local job guys. Like, try something. If you guys have noticed, you're watching on YouTube, we took down the blackout curtains and we're swapping them out, but our curtain rod didn't fit. So we have to wait. So if you notice my background, it's no longer pink like it was before. No longer pink. And then we get to another Ultimate X qualifying match, and we got 3 legitimate undercard guys. Laredo Kid, who got his first one of 3 or 4 victories in the 4 or 5 years he's been here, defeated Jay Vidal, who I didn't know was still with the company. He has not been around, I think, since like the Vegas shows, because he's local to Vegas. But I know he was signed. He's signed here. I thought he was done. And then Bhupinder Gujar, who is he's a Sky D'Amore guy. We have not seen him much either. I know he's done some stuff on Explosion, but I just haven't seen him on Impact in a long time. But I did think the match was pretty good, but it was like, because they're such low-level stars, like if you were to take a look at the minute-by-minute rating, like you had that crappy match before. Oh, sorry, I didn't even get to the finish of the crappy match. So the match wasn't good. It was all comedy, but PCO hit a moonsault on Fulton. So there you go. And we're definitely getting to PCO versus Matt Cardona. PCO holds 2 titles. I don't even know that they acknowledge the championships. He has not defended anything. He's not being recognized as a champion to the level that you would think, because he's a character. I get the feeling, I don't know if they're booked for Emergence, or maybe they'll wait till September, because I don't know if Matt Cardona's cleared just yet, but I think one or both of those titles that PCO is holding is going to go to Matt Cardona. But then, yeah, we get the next match. So it's like, if you were to take a look at a minute-by-minute rating, it probably fell off a cliff here, because these guys just aren't stars. You know, Laredo Kid's never been treated as a star, other than like the one taping where he was the DMC champion and he defeated Casey Navarro. so like so funny. But he got the victory here, and he's heading into Ultimate X, man. So maybe they'll try to do something there. It's like his biannual, like, hey, let's see if we got something in Laredo Kid. We'll give him a victory, and then we'll just beat him a bunch. We got to give him like 10 straight losses after letting him get a win, because we can't have people thinking we respect luchadors. Swig of coffee for Lucha Libre. And next up, what I thought was a really good match. I thought this is a very, like, I've never seen anything like this on TNA. It looks like they're back to just letting Jonathan Gresham be Jonathan Gresham. He's no longer doing the mask thing, and he's just back to just straight up graps. But he took on NXT's Charlie Dempsey, and this is just pure, like, this is like a Ring of Honor pure wrestling match. And I thought it was really good. And I thought it was the struggle over the pinfall there at the end, where he finally was able to like lock his legs up and then just kind of put all of his weight and lock down Dempsey's arms to get that pin. I thought was really cool. It was just something very unique. Again, it probably died as far as television goes, because there wasn't much there wasn't any entertainment value in it. But I thought, like, for me, I just thought it was really fun, unique. We don't really get to see stuff like this, so I kind of like the dichotomy of the show. And when you bring on Jonathan Gresham, you get something that's uniquely Gresham. He has completely abandoned that character with the mask and the ink, and I think that's probably for the best. Now, look, I dug the mask, and I know I said that a bunch. I just didn't like the coughing up of the ink. If he just spit the ink into their face, I thought it would have been fine. But it was the coughing up and putting it on their hands and then wiping it on their face. It was the whole, like, that just part just wasn't very good, and it just didn't get over. So it looks like they've completely abandoned it. I mean, could they bring it back? I think they could, but they would really have to do something dramatically different if they were to bring it back. But after the match was over, Dempsey didn't take the loss well, and he started brawling with Gresham. So they had a pure wrestling match that ended with a brawl afterwards. So maybe they will do it again, and it'll be more of a hard-hitting match. And I think that would probably get over a lot better. But still, I thought this was really cool. I dug the match. It played on more of my taste. I'd be curious to see if anybody else liked it, but I thought it was kind of fun. All right, now finally in the main event, the Hardys versus the System, Moose and JDC. The Hardys are so over. So over. And the way that TNA is using the Hardys, and I know that this is going to kind of seem like I am being tribalistic here. I get that. I get what I'm about to say is going to kind of come across as me being tribalistic, but I think it's okay to compare. I think it's okay to compare what happened with AEW to what's currently happening in TNA with the Hardys, because they were recently in AEW. Now, a lot of the main reason why they failed in AEW is because Jeff got in trouble, right? They got jammed up. But I just felt like AEW didn't really use them the way that they should have used them. They should have used them as a Legends act. And that's what they're doing in TNA. They're kind of a classic, a Legends act. They're being treated as special, and they had a very basic tag team match in TNA. And I think AEW is trying to have the Hardys do classic Hardys matches, but these guys are banged up and they can't really do those matches. So in TNA, they're doing very basic stuff, and the heels are getting over on them, and they're, fighting from underneath and doing that stuff, but they're not doing all the crazy moves and stuff like that. And I thought it was awesome. It was like an awesome main event. And it's just because the Hardys are so over and the crowd's just super into it. It's like Hardys and Joe Hendry, as far as being over with the crowd, are neck and neck. They really are. And I think it was smart to connect the two acts. So the Hardys got the victory. And then, of course, afterwards, the System beat down the Hardys. Santana then shows up. Santana's super over, and he's helping the Hardys fight off the System. But, of course, the System get the upper hand. And then, boom, Joe Hendry's music plays, and the crowd goes apeshit. And then it keeps playing. Keeps playing like he's New Jack in ECW, and he's coming out to Natural Born Killers. It just keeps playing, and they're beating down the System. And then the show just ends on a freaking high note. And looks like they're booked at Emergence, an 8-man, the System versus Joe Hendry, the Hardys, and Mike Santana. And I think that match is going to get over huge. I really do. I think that was a good way to close the show. I think that this was a really fun episode to watch. The trios match with the PCO stuff was so bad, and then they followed it up with death by having those poor 3 guys come out and like. Now the match was good, but as far as like star quality, it was kind of like on the lower end of the spectrum there. But I thought this was a really fun show. I really did enjoy the show, and I'm looking forward to Emergence next week. And, Emergence is low key stacked. It really is. So I'm actually really looking forward to that match, and I really enjoyed the show this week. Let's get to the chat here, and chat started off on the show, man. Tell me what you guys liked. Tell me what you guys disliked. And then, of course, if you guys, this is going to be released eventually on YouTube. So I'm recording this on Saturday morning. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's probably Wednesday, and you could have been involved in the chat, and you could have already had this in your inbox, the full episode, not clipped. You get the full experience right here on patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. So Lucha Doncic said the Carolinas have 3 opportunities to be the best crowds of the year. I take this challenge seriously, bro. You better show up. Yeah, you got, I think you got Spartanburg, and then you got Turning Point, which is in Winston-Salem, I think. And then there's another one. There's some BFE North Carolina. I can't remember if it's, I don't remember where there's another North Carolina one. So Spartanburg, South Carolina, Winston-Salem for Turning Point. And then I think they have another opportunity in December, I want to say. I think. Billy says, I really enjoyed the triple threat that opened the show, and I love the Gresham match and the unique finish. I hope we see more of these two, maybe in a Heritage Cup match. Yeah, it'd be cool to see Gresham get some shine on NXT television now that he's dropped the gimmick. The mixed 6-person tag is probably the worst TNA match I've seen this year. It was rotten. It was so bad. It could not have been worse. I was like, what are we doing here, man? it's like, we were doing so good, and then the show just falls off a cliff with that awful 6-person tag. And Billy says, I think Jay is living in Florida now, so probably why he was used. I am curious if Jay is still under contract, because I know he was signed there. Why do they have all these people who are under contract that they just don't use? I don't know. I feel bad for those guys, because it's like this is their main source of revenue. Their main source of income is coming to these TNA shows. And they're not really getting used all that often. And Aya says, let's run it back. So he's talking about the Gresham and Charlie Dempsey match. So run it back this time for the Heritage Cup. Yeah. So I agree with Billy, and I agree with Io. I think it would be cool to see them do the Heritage Cup. So sorry, my lighting is awful. I think that's time for me to head out here. I really do thank everybody for being here. I have fun doing the show on Saturday mornings, and I hope to be able to continue to do it for a while. But once that kid comes, as you guys can tell, I'm in the nursery. Once that kid comes, it's going to be weird. But we will continue to try to crank out content for you. But be on the lookout for some overtime stuff. All In is this weekend, and it's on Saturday. So I will try to knock out a pod on Monday, recapping All In. I'll try to do it with JD, but if I can't do it with JD, I'll just knock it out myself, because this is my baby. This is all me. And I try to keep knocking out the content for everybody. So, yeah, again, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. And until next time, mahalo.